Good morning and happy Sunday. Here we are again for another beautiful stroll and a great conversation. So, this morning I want to start with a question. And this was a question that came up last night while I was having some quality time with my wife and son, Brenner. The question is this: what if being great at what you do requires you to deliberately protect the parts of your life that have absolutely nothing to do with what you do for a living? And I'll tell you what prompted that question. I have a 13-year-old son named Brenner, and he loves sports. He loves the stats. He loves the gameplay. He loves playing it. He loves watching it. And it's every sport, whatever sport's in season, he knows everything about what's going on. And so we've been playing a lot of baseball throughout the summer, but in anticipation for the regular football season to start on Friday, we had the pleasure of watching the first preseason football game, or the first Denver Broncos the first preseason game of the Denver Broncos, if I could spit that out. And they did really well, and it was a lot of fun to watch. And so yesterday, our girls' softball game basically got rained out, so we got home. We're almost always outside doing something, playing sports or something. And so yesterday was the first time we turned on the TV for a while this summer, but we started kind of seeing what was out there, and my son Brenner and I came across this documentary called Quarterbacks, and we're like, well, let's give this a shot. So what started out to me is just another sports or football documentary quickly kind of changed and became a little bit even more meaningful to me, because I started noticing that it wasn't just a documentary about 3 quarterbacks. It was about 3 different men who just happen to play the same sport, but they do life completely differently. And you have, at least the season that we started, was three different quarterbacks. You got Patrick Mahomes, super competitive, superstar identity, enormous, fanfare, lots of public pressure. He and his wife are very much so in the spotlight. And then the second quarterback is Kirk Cousins with the Vikings, and they show his process-oriented way of tackling the sport, the academic and intelligence quotient needed for a position like that. They really talk about his preparation, his family time, his faith. And then the third quarterback they talk about is Marcus Mariota, and that perspective is more focused to like his identity in the sport, expectations that people had for him, the career pressure, more or less just what happens when your expectations don't come to fruition type of a deal. And so it was the Kirk Cousins part of this documentary that really stopped me in my tracks. And I'll tell you why. And this isn't to highlight him over or under the other quarterbacks. They're all 3 incredible to watch and just complete masters of their craft. But for me as a dad, what really highlighted Kirk Cousins and kind of stopped me in my tracks was how he negotiated a day away from football to be with his family. When he signed with the Vikings, he told them, you can have me for every second and every minute of the rest of the week, but Tuesdays I don't do anything regarding football. That's his time to reset and recalibrate with his wife and with his family. And I just thought that was so cool. He had the self-awareness to recognize that something he was so good at had the potential, and probably not even the potential, but would very likely consume every available inch of his life if he allowed it to. So he implemented a boundary before needing to put that in place, which shows the maturity in the thought process that he has and the intentionality that he has as a father, a husband, and an athlete. And it just had me asking myself, some of these type of introspective questions, right? I think sometimes when we're in the weeds and we're consumed with our trade craft and what we're put on earth to do in whatever season of life that we're in, we fail to understand that you can be extremely serious and intentional about your craft when you aren't doing it. In other words, the time that you set aside and how you protect your time where your own 2 feet are show that you have the wisdom to protect your time, because it could get completely consumed by something that we love and that we're good at. But at the end of the day, what are our kids and our loved ones going to remember while we're in pursuit of these? And my careers leading up to where I am right now were a perfect example of that. And it can be very difficult to set those type of boundaries. And so there were a few things that I just took from watching Kirk Cousins handle and manage his time and how he tackles some of those problems. And I think sometimes that we I suppose confuse being committed with being consumed. We can be committed to a task and an objective and a goal, and it doesn't have to consume every aspect of our life. Now, it should consume the times where we need to be intentional, where our own 2 feet are. But I got to thinking, my son's 13, and when he gets older, he's probably not going to remember or care if I responded to every email, work-related email, how productive I was at work or with my time, how much money I made, how successful I was in corporate America, how many hours I worked. He's going to remember, was Dad present? And I think presence is not just defined as the quantity of time that we spend with our loved ones. And just like Kirk Cousins shows us and illustrates in this documentary, it's the quality time. there was a scene where they had just beat the NFL record for the largest comeback in a game. I think it was 33-0 at halftime, and they came back to win. And when he got back to the locker room, all he wanted to do was bring his son down. And so he went back out and he got his wife and he said, "Hey, bring Cooper down to the family area and I want to bring him into the locker room." And it's like, man, how cool is that? Now that little youngster probably won't understand how cool that actually is until he's much older, but he is going to remember that his dad was there and that he was present. And he set boundaries to make sure that he wasn't so consumed by what he did for his calling or his work that he couldn't be there for his son. And so I just wanted to post this video today, very ad hoc. Most of the time I think about the video throughout the course of the week and what it might be, what it might look like, and I had some thoughts in mind. But after experiencing that, watching that with my son last night, I just had to share it with you guys because, you know, this channel is not preachy in any way. It's just us figuring this life out together so we can better show up for our loved ones and the people that we lead and care for. And, you know, I still have not figured this out. And we are a work in progress. And I'm talking to myself just as much as I'm talking to you. And probably when Kirk Cousins was talking to the interviewers on the documentary, he was thinking about all the ways that he was probably actually thinking about football on a Tuesday when he was trying to compartmentalize and just focus on his family. We can all get better and be better. But I suppose I'll leave you with a question and start to wrap up our time together this morning. But my question to you is, what part of your week belongs to the people that matter to you? It might not be a Tuesday, it might be a Sunday, it might be an evening part of the week. Maybe you don't have the latitude in your schedule to give it a full day. If you do, I promise you that it'll be worth it. But I understand that life is a grind, and hopefully you can just give yourself some honest reflection and ask yourself, you know, how can I protect my family and my kids from the demands of whatever your career is or your pursuits or endeavors are at that point. This has been a fun conversation. I think we can all do better in all areas of our life, and I think as a faith-based man, Kirk Cousins really sets the framework of some things that we could do. Remember, you don't have to choose between excellence and your family, but you do have to intentionally protect your family from what you're excellent at. I'll say that again. You do not have to choose between excellence and family, but you do have to be intentional about protecting your family from what you're excellent at. Protect our time. Be intentional. Be where your own 2 feet are. And I sure as heck know I'm going to try that. And this morning I try to make these videos even before anybody else is up in the mornings, just because it makes the most sense. And then we eat breakfast and head off to church in the morning. But I sure know I'm going to be more protective and intentional with my time this week. Kirk Cousins set the table for us, and if a professional NFL quarterback can set aside a day of the week for the people that are most important to him, I think we should be able to do the same. So anyhow, that's it for today. I love our conversations. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. Football season's upon us, so if you're a football fan like our family, see what we can do to learn from some of these stellar performers and athletes, and choose your family. That's it for today. See you later.